Do you Dremel Maintenance? Let's go!
Fake records.
1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2
Okay, the first things you're going to need for today is a small flathead screwdriver, T15 Torx head, a paintbrush, and some prehistoric oil. If you don't know where to get this, you can basically look in the back garden. Mine's about 300 million years old. Silicone based, very, very simple, and it is really easy to use. Got a nice little squirt cap. So very, very cheap, and that'll last you years to come. So, moving on. Just make sure that your Dremel is not plugged in when you're doing this. You don't want any mishaps. So disconnect your flex shaft attachment, leave that to one side. We're going to be focused on the Dremel right now. So the first thing we want to do is make sure all the dust, it's free of any of that dust. So this is what your paintbrush is used for, getting rid of all that dust in those nooks and crannies on your speed controller. You get your brush right in there. Sort of clean everything up in your switch, but more importantly in your inlet. So your inlet and your exhaust vents, both sides, you want to loosen up all that dust. And then if you have a compressor, now's the time to use it. So that will basically blow out all the dust that you've loosened up, because you don't want to sort of get everything sort of maintained and cleaned, and then you go and hang this back up, turn it on, and then dust flies everywhere. You don't want that. So compressor, get it outside and just blow it all out. It's pretty windy today. So at this point, we want to concentrate on changing the brushes. These are the most important things. If you find your Dremel is stuttering while it is engraving, then you know it is an indication of the brushes require a change. So with a 4300, very, very simple, flathead screwdriver, pop these little caps off, and then it reveals a less spring. Okay, on the end of the spring is a brush. However, in my case, I did remove one of the bushes, and it is extremely, extremely worn out. And now I've just had this, see if I can focus this. That is supposed to be rectangular. As you can see, it's completely worn out, which is not good. So this is a pretty new brush I've got here. As you can see the difference. There's a lot more meat on that one compared to that tiny little thing. There's nothing left of it. It just shows you how often I use my Dremel. So this is a good opportunity to get your brushes changed. It's very, very simple. They just slide straight back into the cavities. Once you feel it seat, and then do that on both sides. Okay, you'll feel it seats against the motor, and then just get your caps and return them back to their positions. You can initially do a turn with your finger, and then tighten it up with your screwdriver. Don't over tighten them because it is only plastic. And again with this one. And voila, there we go. Your brushes are changed on the 4300. Very, very simple to do. So at this point, make sure everything is okay with it. You can turn the motor on, but we'll do that right at the end when everything's put back together. So I'm moving on to the flex shaft. So flex shaft again is pretty simple. So what we're going to do is remove the multi-chuck or the mini attachment that you have out of the box. Get rid of that. And what you want to do, especially if you've got the outer and inner collets, you want to disassemble them, make sure they're nice and clean, free of any debris. And then a lot of time there does have a build-up of dirt and metal and wood and all that. It's depending on what you're engraving, it all tends to build up in these areas. So there's the opportunity to clean them out. You don't have to oil this, it needs to stay dry so it can adhere to your burr. So from here you can remove your cable within your flex shaft. It's a good opportunity to inspect it. So turn it upside down, it will poke its head out and you can just slide it out of the shaft, pull it all the way out, and what you'll find is 2 square ends on either end. So obviously the cleaner side that goes sort of Dremel, and the dirtier side, you can see it's nice and oiled, that'll go into my handpiece. So once you're happy that the cable is not frayed in any way and it's nice and healthy, you can slide that back into the shaft, slide it all the way down. Okay, if it does get to this point and the cable does stick out of the holder, just turn it a couple notches and it will slide in. Basically it's finding the cavity within your handpiece and it'll seat correctly. So once it's below the silver shaft, then it seats it correctly and it's ready to go. So this is the opportunity to use your prehistoric dinosaur oil. If you have any, you can drop a few drops down the shaft, hang it from the table or from the bench, and let the oil make its way down, or attach straight to your Dremel. Put it on a low speed setting, 5,000 RPM is your lowest, and spin the motor up, and basically it'll move all the oil down the shaft. Do not over oil your shaft at any point, because what you'll find is a lot of oil will start seeping out your handpiece, which I found quite some time ago. So I had to strip everything, clean everything out, dry it. So that's not what you really want. So use your oil very, very sparingly. Silicone base, you can use a grease. So when you reinsert your cable, you can grease the whole cable if you want to. Don't over grease it, it starts collecting dirt and grime and stuff like that. So at this point, once your brushes have changed, you can just reattach your flex shaft to your Dremel itself. Get your goodies back together. Now with the new brushes, what you'll need to do is hang your Dremel onto the table clamp and spin it at 30,000 to 35,000 RPM for at least a minute to make sure those brushes bed onto the motor. As you can imagine, it's a square edge and it's trying to make contact with a round surface. So that square edge basically needs to start wearing down until it's got a full contact of the round surface within the motor. So that will take up to a minute, maybe a little bit more. So what you'll find in the beginning, it still stutters and jumps around a bit, and eventually it'll start settling down once those brushes are making contact with the motor correctly. We're almost there. Okay, so at this point, like I mentioned before, this is the opportunity to get those brushes settled onto the motor itself and get them bed in. So once you hang it up onto your table piece, attach your flex shaft, and that'll give the oil and the silicone, all the grease that you've applied to your flex shaft, they give the opportunity to work its way down the shaft and lubricate everything that needs to lubricate, and it's exactly what you want to do. Keep everything running nice and smoothly, and does keep things a lot cooler with being lubricated well. So when we turn this on, make sure it's at 35, or between 30 and 35,000 RPM, and what you'll find, it does stutter, so I will show you in a second. That will calm down after a few minutes. Generally after a minute it calms down. And once it does, it should be for away and ready to engrave again. So let's have a look. As you can see there, it's still stuttering, it's still going away. I'm not going to leave it running for a minute, you don't want to see that. But it will eventually settle down, especially with the new brushes. Once it does, get that burr straight back in there and get engraving. So if you found this video useful, please share it with your friends, hit that like button, and more importantly, smash that subscribe button. And with these fresh new brushes in my Dremel, we've got a very, very important project that is coming up that we need to get our teeth stuck into, so keep those little eyeballs peeled. Yeah, my dog is so crazy. And hopefully guys, I'll see you guys in the next one. Yeah.